We as people in our modern society are completely bombarded by the desanctification of sex. Everywhere we look has flipped. The most beautiful and integral part about existence has been completely bombarded, perverted, and weaponized to make us more confused, depressed, and unaware. It is our responsibility as men to take responsibility for things that might not directly have to do with us. And when there's a woman on the street, we are not to look at her and shift that blame onto her, because we as men are called to take that responsibility, because change in the world starts with men. And even if it logically seems like the issues that are present don't have to do with us, this is exactly our innate responsibility as men to take that responsibility and fix the world, because we have the power and agency to make the change that we want to see. So in today's video, I'm going to be getting into 8 key points on why lust is such an incredibly destructive phenomenon and why it's pungently an issue today. I'm going to be getting into some of the actionables to make yourself be able to conquer the spirit of lust with a higher fidelity. I'm going to be getting into why it's such an important thing to have a good relationship with lust and to not have lust possess you. And we're going to be getting into why lust as a phenomenon is one of the most lucrative and wicked inhabitable spirits. And this is not just a guy issue. This affects women as well, because the things that we are watching come from the capitalization and the innate pimping out of women. The industry is controlled by men. To get over spirits of perversion and spirits of lust is integral to becoming a fully aligned and harmonious person. The more that we struggle with lust, the weaker and weaker we become. Lust and lust addiction fully envelops the mind, body, and spirit and makes it almost impossible to fully be yourself. And I know for a fact, on the mere account of you watching this, that you're highly intrigued to want to form a better relationship with lust, because the battle of lust is going to be ongoing for your whole life, because we go at it at an incorrect way. It's not necessarily a battle, because lust will always win. It's a matter of running away from that spirit. And today we're going to be getting into that. Lust starts internally. Lust does not begin with a woman. Lust begins with a man who refuses responsibility of his own sight. Attraction is obviously normal and healthy, but lust is very different. Lust is based in consumption and exploitation. Lust turns a person into an object. Lust turns desire into consumption, and it turns strength into weakness. No matter how strong or how principled you are, lust will always win every single time. Lust is not a phenomenon to be taken lightly. The world will always present stimulation. So the question is not what is shown to you. The question is what you decide to do when you see it. Do you humor your hedonistic desires, or do you go about it in an intelligent and conscious and aware manner and take responsibility and ownership over those emotions? Lust does not destroy men loudly. It destroys them quietly from the inside out. So why is lust a problem of vision and not a problem of clothing or attire or fashion? Well, it's actually very simple. Attraction is natural, but lust is a voluntary fixation. A man does not sin because a woman exists. He sins when he decides to stare, when he decides to dwell, and when he decides to consume. For example, Christ puts the responsibility in very simple terminology. In Matthew 5:28, Christ himself states, "Anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery in their heart." Notice what he did not do. Christ did not blame the woman. He targeted the man's eyes, internal will, and discipline. Responsibility begins where your vision lingers. So what are the actionables that we could actually implement right now to help alleviate and become a healthier person in the battle against lust? Well, one of the things that we could do is incorporate the one-look rule. Obviously, we're curious and interested people. Looking is a part of our defense mechanism to keep us alive and to garner information. So looking first is not the issue at all. When a beautiful woman or a beautiful man crosses your path, you obviously don't need to shut your eyes and turn away. That's just incredibly strange. Obviously look, it's fine. But the issue is the perversion and the fantasy that you start to entertain. The first look is awareness, but the second look is a decision. So what we could do is notice, then redirect, and then move on. Instead of notice, stare, and fantasize. This is where the self-destructive and environmentally destructive behavior lies. It's not in looking. It's not in the awareness or the observation that somebody or something is beautiful. We're able to see and observe our beautiful world. That's completely and utterly fine. In fact, it's healthy, but it is a very fine line. Stepping into perversion and fantasy is on your own accord. So taking responsibility of that is the most important thing that we can do as men. Because guys, these are some people's daughters. These are some people's future mother. You know, the stuff is actually really serious. And we live in a society that is so surface level and fashionized and fast paced that we forget these things. But these are real people with souls. So perving on people and fantasizing about people that don't want you to do that is incredibly disrespectful in all imaginable facets. Modern culture is engineered to break eye discipline. Advertising, entertainment, social media is particularly designed to monetize fixation. The enemy does not need to force lust, only to normalize staring. A man that cannot govern his gaze cannot resist anything else. Lust actually trains your brain for consumption. Lust trains your nervous system to chase pleasure without relationship. Dopamine spikes without effort. Arousal spikes without commitment. And desire spikes without responsibility. And over time, you pay the price. Attention gets scattered. Willpower decreases. And forming connections within itself becomes duller and more of an impossibility. For example, Christ or Yeshua tells it pretty plainly. In John 8:34, Christ states, "Everyone who sins is a slave to sin." You might think that you're more powerful or you're better or you're able to defeat these sins and these wicked behaviors. But in general, and in the final analysis, you're going to see that they were possessing you the whole time. You were not using the spirits, but the spirits were using you. So to be aware and to nip it in the bud as early as you possibly can is abundantly important, and in fact it is necessary. Everyone who sins is a slave to sin, and that slavery starts neurologically. What you repeatedly fixate on starts to command you over time. So what we could do right now is win before the fight even starts. Don't battle lust. Run away from it. Delete triggers, block sites, block different apps that you use. All these little things seem pretty small, but in general, it allows these wicked spirits to have a foothold in the door. Move your phone out of your bedroom at night. Reduce exposure before willpower is required. Doing all these little things will help propel you to not have to fixate over it too much. It's going to make your relationship with lust easier to become healthy. The modern economy profits from addiction, not mastery. Algorithms are specifically designed to overstimulate and underdeliver. The enemy exploits our dopaminergic signaling specifically to weaken our long-term will. A compulsive man is predictable, and most importantly, he is controllable. So why does lust kill masculinity at the level of agency? Masculinity could be thought of agency under pressure. Lust trains abdication. It trains you to watch instead of act, fantasize instead of pursue, and consume instead of build. Christ gives a brutal and precise instruction. In Matthew 5:29, Christ states, "If your eye causes you to sin, rip it out." He's not talking about mutilation. He's talking about leadership over your attention. And note, again, he never states that it's a woman issue. He never states that a woman wearing something, perhaps skimpy, or showing some skin is the issue. The issue is you. The issue is the men perving on those women and those girls. Man, I used to work in construction. These men I would work with, 40, 50, 60 years old, there were multiple instances where they're just straight up like, they're literally perving on girls a quarter of their age, okay? So this is a very abundant issue, and these are people's daughters and future mothers and grandchildren. This is a big issue, and this is the same issue of the iconography of Satan, and the same could be said with lust. A man who cannot govern his eyes cannot govern his life. So one of the actionables that we could start implementing right now is remove weak environments, unfollow certain accounts, avoid certain applications, and don't hang around temptation. Make self-command easier by design. Society rewards spectatorship over action. Men are encouraged to watch, comment, and consume, but not build. The enemy has replaced pursuit with fantasy, and it is abundantly clear. A passive man never becomes a threat to disorder. Now, lust actually destroys our capacity for love. Love requires presence, sacrifice, and mutuality, and lust requires none of those. Lust takes without giving, desire without service, and pleasure without cost. Lust conditions you to take, and love conditions you to give. One builds families, and the other leaves men isolated. So what we could do is transmutate the sexual energy, transmute desire into investment, train hard, build skills, and serve people. Let your energy create something real instead of consuming things that are fake and have no promise in the final analysis. Hookup culture trains disposability, not devotion. Pornography trains use, not union. The enemy knows that isolated individuals are easier to fracture than families. Lust dissolves bonds that love would otherwise solidify. And this is one of the reasons that we live in such a lustful society. It's because they want what is salvific to be desanctified. Now, lust actually makes hardship feel unbearable. Lust could be thought of as an anesthetic or like a numbing agent, like laughing gas or fentanyl. It numbs discomfort instead of transforming it. So when life gets hard, a lust-trained man doesn't fight. He escapes, and that escape makes him weaker. Now, Christ's opinion on this and how he says to fix this is by his broad narrative of pick up your cross daily. That's in Luke 9:23. It's a very broad statement, but it can be applied to literally everything because that is the meta-truth of all meta-truths. That's the meta-narrative above everything is carry your cross. Out of all the meta-truths ever, that is the one that is on the pinnacle of the hierarchy of importance. Lust trains escape, and taking your responsibility trains endurance. One hollows you out and the other forges you. When discomfort hits, don't run. Do one hard thing immediately. Cold shower, training, reading, cleaning your room, the list goes on and on. But in general, do the work that you have avoided. Teach your nervous system that we endure instead of getting devoured. Modern culture treats discomfort as a pathology. Every pain is framed as trauma. The enemy replaces transformation with sedation. Men who cannot endure suffering cannot carry responsibility. So lust actually erases meaning and purpose. Meaning emerges from responsibility, and lust precisely erodes responsibility. It offers pleasure without consequence, then leaves you restless, ashamed, and unfocused. What does it profit a man to gain the world but lose his soul? Lust profits nothing. It trades depth for stimulation and strength for monetary relief. So what we could do is replace consumption with production. Create something daily, even if it is small. Build the person you want to become through action. Society sells meaning as feeling, not duty. And the enemy dissolves purpose by removing responsibility. A man chasing pleasure cannot create a life worth suffering for. Now we must take responsibility no matter what culture tells us. Culture will not protect your eyes. Fashion will not restrain itself for your growth. Society will not train you to become disciplined. Christ never told men to demand modesty first. He told men to govern themselves. A mature man does not outsource responsibility. A mature man embodies it. So one of the actions that we perhaps could do is say it out loud. My eyes, my responsibility. Instill it in your psyche and your soul, because it is the truth. And then prove this in public. Practice lowering your gaze without resentment. Blame is culturally rewarded. We live in a society that replaces accountability with victimhood. Society keeps men arguing about externals so they can never master internals. So discipline and brotherhood break lust's power. It is the most potent thing that we could do. Lust thrives in secrecy and isolation. Discipline restores order, and brotherhood restores accountability. Darkness weakens when it's exposed. Men who stand together stand stronger. So if you are battling against lust, tell one trusted friend, set weekly check-ins, and bring your struggle to the light, because if you keep it trapped in the darkness, it will always be there. Modern men are isolated by design. Community is replaced with screens and entertainment. The enemy attacks brotherhood first because united men resist corruption. Govern your eyes or be governed. Lust is not small. It corrodes your will, fractures your mind, weakens your masculinity, and destroys your capacity for love. So choose discipline or decay, responsibility or indulgence, command or captivity. Lower your gaze, lift your standards, and carry your cross. Because a man who cannot govern his eyes will eventually be governed by his weakness. Choose discipline, choose responsibility, and choose strength. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to talk to me or get one-on-one coaching, all of my information is in the description below. You can email me or text me on Twitter or Instagram or anything like that. I hope everybody enjoyed this video and was able to garner some sort of strength or utilization or power, just anything to fight against this. It has been one of the most transformative things in my life to be able to conquer lust and run away from lust and know what's going on. And I know for a fact it will be in your life as well. I hope everybody has a good day, good week, good month, good year, and I will see you in the next one. Later.